A cargo plane landed at Bandar Abbas Airport in southern Iran. No media coverage, no official announcement. But what came off that plane is forcing the Pentagon to reposition 2 aircraft carriers right now, and most people have no idea it's happening. The plane carried something that changes the equation in the Strait of Hormuz: Chinese military advisors, advanced radar systems, technical manuals, and according to 3 separate intelligence assessments, components for anti-ship missile systems designed specifically to target American carriers. This wasn't a routine arms deal. This was the culmination of negotiations that began 6 months ago when Chinese defense minister met his Iranian counterpart. What they discussed wasn't made public, but the results are visible today in satellite imagery, showing new installations along Iran's southern coast. Here's what nobody's connecting. On February 8th, Trump's negotiators visited the USS Abraham Lincoln in the Arabian Sea, Steve Witkoff and Jared Kushner. They toured the carrier, they met with pilots, they inspected defensive systems. The official story was thanking troops for their service during negotiations. But why would negotiators focused on diplomacy spend hours examining a warship's combat capabilities, unless they were briefing commanders on scenarios? Scenarios where Chinese technology in Iranian hands makes that $13 billion carrier vulnerable in ways it wasn't designed to handle. The timeline reveals the connection. Friday, February 7th, talks with Iran in Oman failed. Iran refused to discuss ballistic missile restrictions. Saturday, February 8th, Witkoff and Kushner flew directly from failed negotiations to the Lincoln. Not to Washington, not to brief the president, to a carrier. Sunday, February 9th, Chinese state media published a brief statement about deepening military cooperation with Iran, buried on page 7 of People's Daily. Monday, February 10th, that cargo plane landed in Bandar Abbas. And Tuesday, February 11th, the Pentagon quietly ordered the USS Harry Truman Carrier Strike Group to accelerate. Accelerate from the Mediterranean toward the Red Sea, moving closer to the Arabian Sea where the Lincoln already sits. 2 carrier groups in the same theater. When was the last time America positioned 2 super carriers within striking distance of Iran? Not since the buildup before the Iraq War in 2003. This isn't routine deployment rotation. This is force concentration in response to a threat assessment that changed between February 7th and February 10th. What changed? China delivered technology that American naval planners have been worried about for years. Anti-ship ballistic missiles with terminal guidance systems, the DF-21D. China calls it the carrier killer. It's designed to track moving ships from space using satellite networks and adjust trajectory mid-flight. Iran has been developing its own versions for years, the Khalij Fars, the Hormuz 2. But these systems lack the sophisticated guidance that makes them truly dangerous. Chinese satellites provide real-time positioning data. Chinese radar systems track carrier movements from hundreds of miles away. Chinese targeting algorithms calculate intercept courses. Individually, Iran possessed some of these capabilities. But integrated into a unified system with Chinese technical support, that creates operational challenges the Navy takes seriously. Douglas Macgregor warned about this exact scenario 3 days ago, former Pentagon advisor with direct access to classified threat assessments until recently. He specifically mentioned Chinese satellite intelligence sharing with Iran. He specifically warned that American carriers could be vulnerable if fighting begins. Most analysts dismissed his comments as alarmist, but Macgregor doesn't speculate casually. He spent his career evaluating military capabilities against potential threats. And when someone with his background warns publicly about carrier vulnerability, it suggests he's seeing intelligence that concerns him deeply enough to risk credibility. Here's what the intelligence community has been tracking. In November 2025, a Chinese Navy task force conducted joint exercises with Iran in the Gulf of Oman. The exercises included anti-ship missile drills, satellite tracking practice, coordinated targeting against moving naval vessels simulated by Iranian frigates. Western naval attachés observed from a distance. They noted the precision. They noted the integration between Chinese satellite data and Iranian missile systems. One report from a European intelligence service stated plainly, Iran's anti-ship capabilities have improved significantly with Chinese technical assistance. Then, in December 2025, commercial satellite imagery showed new construction at multiple sites along Iran's southern coast. Large concrete installations, radar arrays. These weren't nuclear facilities. These weren't uranium enrichment sites. These were coastal defense missile batteries positioned to cover the Strait of Hormuz and approaches. By January 2026, at least 7 new installations were operational, each capable of launching multiple anti-ship missiles toward targets up to 250 miles offshore. The Abraham Lincoln typically operates around 150 to 200 miles from the Iranian coast, close enough to launch aircraft for strikes, far enough to provide defensive depth. But with Chinese satellite tracking and improved Iranian missile range, that safety margin has compressed. The carrier is now within the envelope where new systems can engage. This is why Witkoff and Kushner toured the Lincoln on February 8th. They needed to understand from commanders directly. Can this ship survive in a shooting war? Can the Aegis defense systems intercept multiple ballistic missiles incoming simultaneously? Can the electronic warfare suite jam Chinese satellite guidance signals? Can the carrier maneuver fast enough to evade hypersonic terminal velocity impacts? These aren't theoretical questions anymore. They're operational planning requirements. And based on what happened next, the answers commanders gave weren't entirely reassuring, because the Pentagon immediately began moving a second carrier toward the region. The Harry Truman was supposed to remain in the Mediterranean through March, supporting operations in Europe, maintaining presence near Syria and Libya. But orders changed. The Truman Strike Group is now transiting south, expected to reach the Red Sea by February 18th, positioned to reinforce the Lincoln if needed,